From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center, here's your traffic and weather. If you're right in on this Wednesday morning, relatively calm around Columbia. Do have an accident with a right lane blocked at I-77 southbound in Farrer Road. That's exit number 19 up there. Also have an accident Hope Ferry Road and Midway Road as well. As we take a look at our weather for this Wednesday, let's see here. We've got a high of 92, currently 74 in downtown Columbia. It's traffic and weather here on the early game. All right, 9 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Velcher along with you here on The Game. So we are halfway through your week, almost halfway through your week. That'll be at noon today, I guess. But we can finally put the Missouri game behind us. We've turned the page over to Kentucky. Yesterday, Coach Beamer spoke. Definitely a more chipper mood, I guess, at the press conference than what we had a week ago. And I know we had the group from the cancer thing yesterday, so maybe that had something to do with it, but definitely didn't seem as agitated as the presser coming off the Vanderbilt loss.
I mean, look, losing is going to make you feel that way. And he's definitely had some more, I don't know what the right word to use is, but a little bit more on edge in press conferences, I would say. Like, you notice that he's a bit moody, and that's definitely been the case over the last 2 weeks here. And yesterday was a lot better. Again, they want to get back on track. They want to win games. I think Shane probably hears more about, because we know he looks at social media and stuff. That's obvious, sure. But we know he sees that the fan base is not happy, and a lot of I've seen fans starting to say like question Beamer, like if he's the right guy for the job, and that's crazy just because it was only a little under a year ago where everyone was like, extend Beamer. He's the man for the job because he was having a great season. But
sure,
the moment you start losing, things change, and it's up to him to get this thing back on track. And fans are ready to see if he can do that. And I think he's ready to get over this hump too.
That is the life of a coach, just in general, but especially in the SEC, where expectations are so high. When a year ago, people were obviously praising you and saying, oh man, you're the greatest coach since Steve Spurrier, and you're doing this, you're doing that, and we're going to accomplish this and accomplish that. And again, people are jumping way too far ahead if they're, questioning Beamer's job security at this point, because that's not in jeopardy to any degree as of right now. But again, that's how people are going to react when things aren't going the right way, and again, with the expectations being as high as they were, people are rightfully very disappointed with how the season has started.
Totally. I mean, you have to get back on track this weekend. Otherwise, I mean, I can't even imagine the uproar if they lose to Kentucky. Like, it's one thing to lose to Vanderbilt and Missouri. Those are good football teams that you lost to. So I don't think there's as much shame in that, even though, look, you were at some point that streak against Vanderbilt was going to end, and you've always had trouble going to Como. Like, right. Those things were just going to happen at some point. But to lose to Kentucky on Saturday, dude, the reaction Monday here, the building might be on fire. I mean that's how bad it could be. It could be Ole Miss levels of bad if they don't win that game. I don't care how they lose the game. If they don't win on Saturday and they're 2-3 heading into this bye week, I'm scared, man.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they're winning an SEC game after that.
Well, and then you'd have to sit on that for 2 weeks before going to Baton Rouge and playing LSU. Like, it would just be all kinds of bad. That would be the point where the apathy sets in from fans, right? And look, we've seen this before 2 years ago. When they ended up missing a bowl game, and you were sitting at what 2-5 on the season, and yeah, they won a couple games in a row to at least or 2-6 on the season, 2-6, and they won a couple games in a row to give themselves a shot at making a bowl, and obviously came up short against Clemson. But by that point, a lot of people had checked out on the season because they were disappointed given the expectations going in about where the team was. But again, that's just the nature of where we're at in, with this program and what the expectations are. And unfortunately, this season, not off to the greatest start. We'll get into what Beamer had to say in just a second. But first, it is 9 o'clock. And as always, we must kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9s.
And I get it. There's a lot of people outside this building that aren't happy with me and aren't happy with our 2-2 record, and I don't blame them. But you get to come back into Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday night and be a part of the greatest environment in all of college football. So that's what our focus is on and looking forward to, and hard at work on that.
Again, like you said, Beamer understands and sees a lot of the criticism being thrown his way, the team's way, and all that kind of stuff, because he does pay attention to those kind of things. And again, fans have a right to be frustrated because what they've seen has not been great, and that revolves a lot around the offense. We went through yesterday, and I detailed all the categories that they are 100th or worst in the nation, and it's a lot of them. And, I know Beamer said last week, a lot of teams haven't played the best competition, so numbers are maybe a little bit skewed, but regardless of who's played who, and again, Carolina's played two not great opponents in South Carolina State and Virginia Tech. There's no excuse for your numbers to be that low in any circumstance.
No, definitely not. I mean, the numbers have got to be better. Like, you have probably like your most talented quarterback in program history right here. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But
no, I don't think it is at all. I think there's unquestionably this is the best, most talented quarterback you've ever had.
Like, we talk about windows of opportunity. South Carolina has theirs right here with a really good quarterback. And who knows how long LaNorris Sellers is going to be here. He could be back next year. Who knows? He could go to the NFL draft. If he plays like the way he did on Saturday, I mean, teams are going to look at that and be like, okay, we can work around the mistakes he made and draft this kid early on. But, yeah, it's been disappointing, man. It has. The run game has been non-existent. I think the whole Rasul Faison experiment has just not been worth it at all so far. I'd love for him to just prove everyone wrong, but it has not been there so far. And the offensive line has kind of just been so mediocre at best, probably worse than that, quite frankly. I mean, there's just a lot of issues right now. LaNorris with the staying in the pocket and having better situational awareness. A lot of factors are going wrong right now. The penalties, I mean, it's a mess right now offensively, and at some point they got to clean it up. I mean, I think this is going to be the weekend where we're going to be like, at the end of the weekend, we're going to be like, dude, where on earth was this the last few weeks? Like that, this is the type of game where you get all the things that you've had going wrong figured out and have some real confidence going into the bye week.
Yeah, but also shouldn't that have happened against SC State? Like, shouldn't that have been the game where your offense looked great and everything was going well and, we felt good going into week number 3? It didn't happen then. I mean, where's my confidence that's going to happen this weekend?
Again, that's the thing. It's going to take you by surprise that if it were to happen this weekend, it's going to be like, dude, where was all this stuff over the last few weeks? And I hate to say it, but I feel like it ultimately just comes down to the fact of kind of just letting LaNorris do what he does, man. Like, I just feel like for whatever reason, and Tyler, I want to hear your opinion on this too. Just do you feel like he was even comfortable out there on Saturday? Because, yes, he made some really nice throws. But, again, I feel like there was a lot of hesitation from LaNorris. I feel like we still have not seen the LaNorris of 2024 where he doesn't care what the play is. He's bulldozing through guys. He's taking names and kicking butts. I mean, he's running all over the field doing his thing, yet he's still making passes. I feel like we've seen the passing get better, but the run game with him is still kind of, it's not all the way there, I don't think.
Yeah, he's not playing, maybe this isn't the right words to describe it. He's not playing with the reckless abandon that he did a year ago, where it seemed like he wasn't afraid of anything. You know what I mean? And look, he made some mistakes, threw some interceptions, had some fumbles, that kind of stuff, which that's going to happen, when you play loose and fast like that. And it is almost to a degree like maybe he's thinking about it too much. And I go back to, and again, this wasn't all his fault because Faison did throw a terrible block and he immediately had a guy in his face. But even then, it's like, get rid of the ball, man. And Beamer said as much after the game. Sellers said as much after the game. But in that moment, it's almost like he's trying to process too many things at once to where it's like, okay, I can still save this. I'm going to hold on to the ball. And boom, you get sacked for 13 yards. And again, it's not just one instance that's happened in. It's happened multiple times so far this year. And again, I don't know if that goes back to what they were trying to do from a development standpoint in the offseason of just trying to make him a better passer, which there's nothing wrong with that. And you do need to have good pocket presence. But again, it's the overthinking element of it. And as Beamer pointed to yesterday, defenses are keying in on him, right? These other teams aren't dumb. They know his ability as a runner, and they're going to dedicate guys to trying to prevent him from killing them with their feet. Like, I get that. It totally makes sense. You can see that on the film. That's what every team is doing. But Preston brought up a really good point earlier. It's like, well, if he's as special as he's supposed to be, then you still let him go out there and be himself, right? Or if they are taking away the run for him specifically with having, linebackers spy on him or whatever, doesn't that open up more in the middle of the field with your passing games? Or you're not scheming that to where guys are more in those areas where you can get them the ball? Like, again, Mike Shula has forgotten more football than any of us will ever know. And he could come in here and dazzle us on a whiteboard and explain to us why his offensive philosophies are what they are. But at the same time, we're not seeing the results on the field. And it goes back to the simple basics of, okay, well, you got a special player. Why isn't he doing special things?
That's the thing. Why you brought up a really good point there. If they, again, Beamer literally said yesterday, Missouri had two guys that were literally dedicated to stopping Sellers if he broke out and ran. With that said, and like you said, Tyler, why aren't they putting the ball over the middle of the field more? Again, the deep ball game was working fine, but I feel like the short, intermediate passing game, how would we describe it? Kind of just meh. It was fine, nothing great.
Well, and you can't live off of deep balls.
No.
Right? Those are low percentage throws for a reason. It's great when you hit them, but that can't be your entire offense. And we'll get into the base hits thing here in a second because we talked about the offense being boom or bust. And yes, it's great when you can uncork a 40-yard bomb to Vendrius Jacobs and very nearly hit one to Mazio Bennett, but that can't be the majority of your offense. You have to do other things well, and then when those other things happen, that's great. But you have to do other things around that to be a functional offense.
You have to. So I think that's a really good point you brought up, though, again, about the spies that they have on Sellers and needing to kind of exploit. Like, again, if teams are so focused in on him running the football, then, yeah, try to do what you need to do passing-wise to make sure they take their attention away from him running the football. Then maybe you can get him into running a little bit more. But, again, to do that, I feel like you need to establish some semblance of a run game, and whether that's through Sellers or through Faison. Again, you waited 8 months for Rasul Faison to be cleared to play, and he has not done a thing so far. I think it's time for this. At some point, he's got to really go big or go home. I mean, it's got to happen. 100-yard game, whatever it takes, you got to get there.
Well, and you would hope that this is the weekend to get right, like you said, because if you're still having the same struggles coming away from the Kentucky game, well, guess what? It's only going to get harder from here with the schedule you have after the bye week.
It's who you are at that point. It's who you are. That we'd be in week 7 by the time they play again. I mean, that's who they are at that point.
Yeah, we'll dive into more of the offense coming up next. Yesterday, we were talking about the boomer bust thing, and I brought up the comparison of, well, this is almost kind of like a baseball team that either hits home runs or strikes out. Home runs are great. But if you're not getting base hits to complement those home runs, you're only putting up one run on the board each and every time. So what are the offensive equivalents in football to base hits? We'll dive into that coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Wednesday here on The Game. Tyrant here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. Brew Days are back every Wednesday this month in September. Twin Peaks is celebrating with one of our most beloved things, and that is beer. You can get down to Twin Peaks today and score a 22-ounce Twin Peak brew on draft for just $3.99 all day long. And why wait for the weekend as well? Or they're serving scratch food and pouring quality cocktails every day after dark. And you can come by the Lodge to experience the best late night in the league today, tomorrow, or any other day of the week. And with the weekend just ahead, more football tomorrow through Monday, you know the only place to catch all that great action is with our friends over at Twin Peaks. They got TVs as far as the eye can see, all that delicious food, and, of course, don't forget about those 29-degree draft beers. All this and more with our friends over at Twin Peaks. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed, Jack Belcher, along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. I'll let you know tomorrow we're going to be out live at Firehouse Subs, right across the street from Lexington Medical Center on Sunset Boulevard. You can come by and hang out with us all morning long. We'll be out there from 9 to 12 getting you set for the Kentucky game this upcoming weekend. By the way, it's 2805 B Sunset Boulevard over in West Columbia out at Firehouse Subs. So looking forward to that. Well, as we continue to talk about the offense, again, yesterday we were having the conversation about being boom or bust, and I equated it to baseball for a team that either hits home runs or strikes out. And if you're not getting base hits in between those home runs, well, guess what? You're only scoring, one run every single time, and that can only be so successful. So to kind of bring this back in to football context, we have to define what home runs are. And like scoring plays, that's too easy, I feel like we need to look at it as explosive run or pass plays. And Beamer's definition, as many coaches are, is runs over 12 yards and passes over 18 yards. And you've had some of those passes, haven't had a lot of those runs, a few, but that will be our baseline for home runs. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. It is.
So now we have to figure out what are base hits in between that. Well, what are the things but underneath those explosive run and explosive pass plays that you need to do to be successful overall as an offense, right? Because, hey, it's great if you can hit, 6, 7, 8 explosive pass plays a game and 3, 4 explosive run plays. But if the majority of your drives are ending up in punts where you're not doing enough around those things to be successful enough to win, right?
No, yeah. No, you're not. And I think we look at singles. I mean, I would say probably any 10-yard play maybe. And on with the stat broadcast for these games, they have the big plays, the explosive plays as 15 or more yards. And I consider the home runs to be like your deep balls that you had. Anything I think above 30 yards is probably, I would say, a home run. I mean that feels about the case.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Yeah. But if you reach the end zone like a 5-yard run, then that's like a.
Well, and that's why I didn't want it to limit it to just scoring plays, because every scoring play can be different. That's why I think just Beamer's definition of explosive, 12-plus yard run, 18-plus yard pass, I think that in and of itself is home run enough, no matter if it results in a touchdown or just a first down, right? Though there are some instances where you're in 3rd and 37 and an explosive pass play still doesn't get you a first down. And unfortunately, we've been in those situations a couple times this year.
Yeah, so I would say a single's probably 10 yards. I mean,
well,
what do you think?
So this is just my idea, and you can disagree or come up with something different if you feel like it. I kind of equated singles, and this can be run or pass, to about getting 3 to 4 yards on first down, right? To at least, because here's the thing. If you got 3.5 yards on first down, 3.5 yards on second down, 3.5 yards on first down, congratulations. You've gone over 10 yards, and you've got a first, assuming you don't have a pre-snap penalty, which with this team, you can't really assume that. But if you're in a basic 1st and 10, and you go 3.5 yards on every single down, well, congratulations, you've done enough to move the chain. So to me, getting a single is setting yourself up for success on second down, right? Because you've gotten at least 3 yards on that first play from scrimmage, or the first play of that, set of downs, to set yourself up to be successful on second down. Is that fair?
Yeah. Okay, that's a better way to look at it. And then, I don't know. I mean, I think doubles are probably, 10 to 15 yards. I think that is probably a fair take, because that means you're automatically getting a first down every single time. I mean, I feel like that's a good, happy medium right there.
I went with doubles being between 5 and 8 yards on first and second down, which, again, if you're doing your job on first down and you get, 3.5, 4 yards on a run or whatever on first down, then you get 7 yards on second down, well, congratulations. You've moved the chains once again. It took 2 plays to get there, but you still move the chains. And then if you do that on first down, say you get an 8-yard pass, screenplay or whatever that sets you up for second and 2, well, again, you've made your life a whole lot easier on that second and eventually maybe third down because you've gotten so many yards initially. Do you kind of follow where I'm going with this?
So what's a triple then?
So a triple for me would be getting between 8 to 11 yards on any down. Because, again, if you assume you don't have a penalty to start things off with, if you go 10-plus yards, you're automatically getting a first down. And if you, say, got 8 or 9 yards on first down or second down, well, that makes your second or third down a whole lot easier. See what I'm going with this? Like, again, my home runs are explosive pass plays. So I'm keeping my yardage for the other things below that. So if you can be 3 to 4 yards on first down, that's a single. If you can be between 5 and 8 yards on first and second down, that's a double. And then between 8 and 11 yards on any given down, that's a triple to me.
I don't think South Carolina's had a ton of those, I guess.
They haven't, and that's been the problem. We've seen, and you go back and look, they've had a lot of explosive plays through the air so far this year, but when you're not, adding those up with a lot of the base hits that we're talking about here, your offense can only be so successful. Again, we were celebrating the fact that they finally eclipsed 17 points under Shula in the 5th game that he's been calling plays, right? Like, when you look at what's coming down the line, only scoring 20 points isn't going to win most of these games, right?
No, it's not. I mean, unless your defense is really, really good. I mean,
Which right now,
no,
it's not looking great.
No, I would say this defense regressed. But again, I think we had to expect that coming into the year. I mean, the warning signs were out there that, like, hey, look, this defense may be good for all we know. But at the end of the day, you lost who you lost. You have to replace those guys. There's no guarantee you're gonna strike lightning in a bottle twice out of the transfer portal, and clearly they haven't. I mean, there's still a lot of season left to go. We're only a third of the way through the college football season for Carolina, but can they turn it around? I don't know. Again, much like what you are offensively, like you are who you are. Like, if the defense is not figuring it out after this week and they're giving up 30-plus points again for nearly 3 weeks in a row, I mean, I know it was 29 last week, but let's just call it 30. That'd be 3 straight weeks of giving up 30 points a game. I mean, that would be really bad, and I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Kentucky's going to be starting a freshman quarterback in Cutter Boley, and his sample size is just one game against Eastern Michigan and a few plays against Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I would be shocked if South Carolina's defense is giving up 30 points or more in this game. There are massive problems there, like red flags everywhere.
This game this weekend seems like the one where alarm bells not that alarm bells aren't really going off, but they'd be taken to a higher level, right? Because if your offense is still having the same struggles, because look, we think Vanderbilt and Missouri are probably going to be pretty good teams, right? Like, Missouri could end up being another 10-win team and darn well may make the playoff, especially on the heels of, their running back, Ahmad Hardy. And this isn't your dad or granddad's Vanderbilt. This team could be a 8, maybe a 9-win team this upcoming year. We don't have high hopes for Kentucky, right? I think we all collectively look at Kentucky as the quote-unquote worst team in the conference as of right now. And if you're still struggling to scrape 20 points and your defense is allowing into the 30s against this team, then you've got big problems, right? Like, that's when the panic buttons are being hit.
They are. So, again, I don't think we're going to run into that issue this weekend of South Carolina just not being able to play well defensively. I think they should have no issue with this game. I mean, it's Kentucky. If you have problems with this team, then just call the season off at that point. I mean, there's no point in playing against LSU and Bama and Oklahoma and all these teams if you can't beat Kentucky. That's just my take on it.
Well, and your take would be shared by a lot of people because, again, I think that belief would be zapped. If you're on a 3-game losing streak and one of those is to Kentucky going into your bye before taking on quite literally some of the best teams this conference has to offer on the other side of that bye, yeah, that belief's not going to be there for, I don't think, anybody.
No, it wouldn't be. So, but offensively, you got to figure it out too. And again, you need more of these. You need to move the sticks more. You got to get first downs. You got to get your triples and home runs, and establish the run game too. Even if that's 3-4 yards of play, it'll eventually lead to a first down, hopefully.
So hoping for better things offensively and defensively this upcoming weekend. It's never too early to look into the future, though, and yesterday we officially learned what the next 4 years of South Carolina's schedule looks like. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Wednesday on the game. Tyler Ed here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. It almost seems like clockwork. When I'm driving in every single morning, I see a Canty Foundation Specialist truck on the interstate, and I know they're on the way to help somebody with their foundation problems. And I'm happy to remind you once again, if you notice things around your home that are a little bit off, like cracks in exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors and windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door, you could have serious foundation issues, and that's where Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation problems and get them fixed so you and your family can live comfortably going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Belcher with you on your Wednesday here on the game. Coming in about 10 minutes, your next chance to win $1,000 in cash in our National Cash Contest. Just be listening out for the next keyword and get ready to text it to 958 1-9. Again, that coming up in about 10 minutes. So keep it locked right here for your chance to win that money. Jack, well, how old are you going to be in 2029?
I will be 29 years old.
Okay, I will be 33 years old. I hope we're still doing these jobs. That'd be fun.
It would be.
Hopefully the South Carolina football program's in really good space by that point in time. Because we now know, at least from a SEC perspective, who Carolina's going to be playing those years. Because last night, 2 days ago, Chris Lowe leaked the permanent opponents for the SEC with the new 9-game schedule going into next year. So Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida, all that has been known for a couple days now. But last night on the SEC Network special, it was revealed all opponents for the next 4 years, where, again, because of the new structure, you'll play those 3 permanent opponents every single year. You'll alternate home and away each year there. And then you will see every single SEC opponent, home and away, over the course of a 4-year window. So, again, you can look at this now. They put the graphic out last night from the South Carolina football account and see every opponent that's coming in here and every road trip you're going to be able to make in the next 4 years in the SEC.
It's pretty cool. I do like it now. It did take a few. It took a little bit for that SEC. They dragged that SEC Network special out a little bit last night.
Well, you got to fill the full hour.
You do. And they of course, they took a commercial break at the halfway point. But if you were watching, you could start to kind of put the pieces together. Okay, here's what other teams are hosting South Carolina or visiting South Carolina over the next 2 years, and then it flip-flops. Like, it's pretty easy to put it together. But, yeah, man, I think it's pretty cool that you as a fan are going to get to visit every single SEC campus from 2026 to 2029 if you haven't done so already. And it's also kind of cool from a player standpoint of if you do stick around all 4 years. We know how rare that is today in college athletics. If you stick around all 4 years, you'll get to play at all 16 SEC schools. That's really freaking cool.
And I was wondering how they were going to do this, because you look at the way the schedule worked out for 24 and 25, where you basically just took the same conference opponents and flipped home and away. So the 8 teams that Carolina's playing this year in conference play are the same 8 teams from last year. It's just the venue changes from home to away or vice versa. But going forward, they're doing the inverse of that. So in 2026, Carolina, of course, you're going to play Kentucky, Georgia, and Florida as your 3 permanent opponents. But then you'll see Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Alabama, Arkansas, and Oklahoma as your other 6 rotational opponents. Well, then in 2027, again, you'll play Florida, you'll play Georgia, you'll play Kentucky, but then you'll see LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. So you will see every single opponent on your schedule within the 2-year window. And again, it alternates home and away. And again, it takes 4 years to take all those in home and away, but you're not playing the same opponents back-to-back years. So I do like that as well, because it gives the schedule a fresh look each and every season.
Absolutely. What are some of the games you're most excited about on these schedules, whether it's 2026 or 2029? Let's break that down, I think.
Yeah, Tennessee coming in here next year. Again, that is much like Florida. It's felt very weird not seeing them in the past 2 years, right? Because those were your annual opponents every single year in the old days of the SEC East. And, you've had the carryover with Kentucky. You've had the carryover with Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilt thing's going away next year, by the way. Georgia's not been on the schedule, but now that's one of your permanent opponents. But for next year, you'll get Tennessee at home, so that's exciting. You'll get to go to the Swamp. And how can you not be excited about Texas coming in 2027? Now, again, could that be a Texas team coming off a national championship? Absolutely. Arch Manning won't be there by then. I highly doubt. But I mean, that brand, like, I'm excited about Oklahoma coming in here, right? Because they've never been here, and that's just that's a helmet game, right? You love the brand of Oklahoma football, what they stand for, what they've done in college football, coming into Williams-Brice Stadium, and same thing can be said about Texas. Like, that's exciting to see them get to come in here.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun to see all these different teams. Like, for me, I'm excited to go to Florida next year. Like, I've heard Gainesville's not great exactly for football. Well, atmosphere-wise, it probably is, but from a media standpoint, I've heard it's not particularly great. But like you said, Tennessee coming back. I'm excited to see Georgia back on the schedule, too, even though Carolina hasn't always had the best success against them. But I mean, going to like Auburn next year or in 2027 is going to be really cool. You got to wait till 2029 to go to Austin to play Texas, but like some of these games that like you just don't like. When's the last time South Carolina's played at Auburn? Like 2010, 2011? Like it's been
It's been a few years.
Yeah,
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
And again, I love the way that this is structured now because it has been ridiculous when you look at certain teams that have never played each other, in home or away and stuff like that. And it creates an ability to see the entire conference again, right? If you stay for all 4 years, or if you're a student, right? If you're coming in as a freshman in 2026, you will have the opportunity to see every opponent, home and away, over the course of 4 years. And I think that's neat. It creates, hopefully, that competitive balance you look for. And that's something else that is worth noting with the permanent opponents, is that the SEC is going to reevaluate this every 4 years, right? Now, again, there are locked-in rivalries that are never going to change, like Auburn and Alabama are going to play every single year. Tennessee and Alabama are going to play every single year. Texas and Oklahoma are going to play every single year. Georgia and Florida are going to play every single year. Those things aren't going to change, but, you kind of look at it, and, let's say over the next handful of years, Florida is just awful, and so is Kentucky, right? They're the bottom dwellers of the SEC, where the SEC might look at that and say, okay, well, Carolina, you're playing Georgia, they're still good, but these other two opponents are maybe a little too easy. We're going to swap out Kentucky for, let's just say, Tennessee to create more of a competitive balance. Like, those kind of things can happen. Not say they're going to happen, but the SEC is going to give itself an opportunity to reevaluate every 4 years to make sure everybody's opponent's schedule is as balanced as possible.
That makes sense. I mean, that's the way it should be, because who knows how these teams are going to look as we head into the 2030s. I mean, South Carolina could be the best team in the conference, and a team like Georgia could just be awful. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. But we're going to see not everything's going to look the same. Heck, I wonder how many coaches are still going to be here by the end of the decade. I mean,
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. I know we've talked about stuff like that before, but now with this all being out there, I mean, who knows? I mean, and you look at like the difficulty of some of these schedules. It's like, how do you know how difficult it's going to be 4 years from now?
Yeah.
You can look at it from this year's standpoint and be like, oh, man, these teams are really tough. Like, going to Texas, that's going to be brutal. But we don't even know what Texas is going to be like in a few years.
Quickly, just since you put the thought in my head, give me the yes or no. Will this coach be coaching this team in 2029 when Carolina plays them? Hugh Freeze at Auburn.
No.
Billy Napier at Florida.
Oh, I mean, he's going to be gone in like a few weeks.
According to you, after 6 games, yes.
According to me.
Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss.
No.
You don't think Lane's going to be there in 2029?
I think he'll be at Florida.
Okay, all right. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Kirby at Georgia.
Yes.
Mark Stoops at Kentucky.
No.
No. Brian Kelly at LSU.
Yes.
Drink at Missouri.
Yes.
Sark at Texas.
Yes.
So you think basically half of the SEC slate for Carolina is going to feature different coaches than where they're at right now?
I think so. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
Let's see. Auburn's trending in the right direction, but they're so finicky. Like, a bad 2026 could run Hugh Freeze out of town. So not hard to argue with that. Billy Napier, yeah, dead man walking. I think Kiffin will still be at Ole Miss. I see Clark Lee still being at Vandy. Kirby still at Georgia. No way Stoops is still there in 2029. He may not survive this year. Kelly at LSU, yes. And then I think Drink and Sark, yeah, they'll still be there.
Like, there's going to be some change over the years. Heck, we don't even know for sure if Beamer's going to be here at South Carolina by the end of the decade. Hope he is. I mean, he's a good coach. But obviously, you have to have success. And Carolina's got to get things turned around ASAP here and, correct the wrongs. But, yeah, man, I'm excited about this. I'm glad to see that South Carolina's getting to play a lot of these teams that they just haven't played in so long. And, it's good to see normalcy kind of return to the schedule.
Well, speaking of coaches, Oklahoma State searching for a new one as Mike Gundy got let go yesterday. We'll dive into that coming up next to wrap up hour number 1 of the Extra Point on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday on the game. Yesterday, we got the news that Oklahoma State's moved on from Mike Gundy. Surprising. Maybe not. I was actually looking back, Jack. We were joking about your hot takes of, like Billy Napier being fired after a 1-6 start. Unfortunately, one of your takes ended up being wrong because you said Gundy would be fired after the season, which I didn't disagree with because I thought they'd let him ride it out. But no, they pulled the trigger yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, kind of surprising because so Oklahoma State does their press conferences on Mondays.
Yep.
And he had already spoken to the media to preview this week's game. And it was funny. There was an interesting clip in there. I think it was like is anyone else hot in here? Is anyone else hot in here? And it's like it's him talking. It's it's just kind of ironic because then the next day he gets canned.
Hey, do you think he knew at that point in time?
I don't know because I think it was kind of just because he went on for 30 minutes to talk. So obviously he's previewing the game and stuff. I think he probably had an idea that it was going to happen, but then and then Oklahoma State's AD. And I know we have a cut somewhere of that, but I know he was talking about he wasn't expecting to have to do this so soon, and of course that was the case. I would have let him finish the season. I mean, I don't think it would have made a difference, but I understand the OK State donors and the boosters, those types of people, were probably not going to be happy with the fact of letting Gundy finish the season, even though he is a legend out there.
So this is per one of the reporters out there in Oklahoma, Cade McFarland. He said Jim Traber says they gave Mike Gundy the opportunity to announce his retirement and coach the rest of the season, but he declined. So I imagine, I guess after the presser on Monday, they had the meeting and like, hey, coach, and that's not unprecedented. We've seen like Will Muschamp basically got fired like with 3 weeks left to go in 2014, but they let him coach out the rest of the season before he, left. And I guess to allow the coach that's giving you all the success your program's ever had to go out kind of gracefully by coaching the rest of the year, Gundy's like, yeah, no, just pay me now and I'll leave, I guess. So they did give him the option. He declined.
Yeah. So, at least they gave him a choice potentially, but I don't know. I mean, this thing's a train wreck out there in Stillwater right now. I mean, I was watching that game on Friday night against Tulsa, and I mean, they just did not look very good at all. You could see why they've gotten as bad as they have, and it's a shame because Mike Gundy has done so much good for Oklahoma State. Again, he's had multiple double-digit win seasons. I think I was listening to Preston talk with Elijah earlier, and I think he was saying 10 out of 11 of Oklahoma State's 10-plus win seasons have come under Gundy, which is pretty crazy. So
well, and again, this was a program that had ascended to being one of the better programs in college football. They never got to the national championship level, but they were consistently winning 10 games, going to conference championships. Heck, 2 years ago, 2023, they were what? They didn't play for the conference championship, but they were they did play for the conference championship, and they had a 10-win season. Like, that was only 2 seasons ago, but the fall-off was so quick. They went 3-9 last year, atrocious, didn't win a single conference game, and when you get your doors blown off by 60 points against Oregon, and when you lose in the way they did against Tulsa the other night, there's not a lot of optimism. So it makes total sense, and unfortunately, at least for now, unless he finds another coaching job, we've lost one of the great coaching characters, one of the quote machines of college football from a media standpoint.
All right, go ahead and play the cut.
Which cut do you want to play?
The cut.
The cut. All right.
The cut.
The cut. All right. Just we'll let this run in the background as we discuss.
It's a platform for people that are sitting home drawing an unemployment check. How can you not take the trash out when I told you for 2 years?
This is a Mike Gundy compilation, by the way.
Take the trash out.
Some of his best moments.
I'm 40. That's my ringtone for everything. Oh, it is? Come after me.
Which, by the way, I did not know Justin Bieber, when he was a kid, had Mike Gundy as his ringtone. That's
it was
pretty
like
cool.
2007.
It was 09.
09 when that happened?
I think it was 09. Well, no, it was 07 when it happened.
09 when the Bieber thing happened?
Yeah,
okay,
but,
that makes sense because I'm like, Bieber wasn't a thing in 07.
Yeah.
With all due respect.
Or maybe 10, I don't know.
The sides that you
Great
get
stuff.
on Thanksgiving, you don't get any time during the year. It started to sink in when I had to get up at 5:45 a.m. and be here before them and prepared for practice. It sunk in real quick. But then when he did it, I said, oh, heck, I got to do it now. So when I got home, of course, I got it. Kristen said it made her kind of throw up in her mouth a little bit. Where are you from?
Sports Illustrated.
Sweet. I'll be farming. That's what I do. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I like to do it. I can't just sit on by a pool and just look around. And I am a vacuuming fool, and I am a bathroom cleaning fool. I'm a closet Donkey Kong guy. So Todd and Wild Bill, they gave us a crash course in about a 15-minute period on the 3 defense mechanisms of a rattlesnake.
So there you go. There's about half of my compilation of Mike Gundy. We'll try and get some more of that as the day goes along, but I hope he can find his way back to a coaching job because, man, he's so fun to listen to.
Yeah, he's the best, man. It sucks it ended this way, but hey, hopefully he gets to ride off into the sunset and go work on that farm that he always wanted to.
Hour number 2 coming up. John Mateer having surgery. Will he be back for the Carolina game? We'll discuss next here in the game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system, and let's be honest, guys, there may come that point where that just unexpected time where your heating isn't working or your air conditioning unit goes out, and maybe you need a system replacement, but maybe you also just need a repair. And AAA also has great deals for repairs. So if your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can help you out. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and no credit check required. So if you're the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. Reminder, Loyola Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest rolls on to another week. $300 up for grabs. The Gamecocks can score a special teams touchdown against Kentucky on Saturday. Go online to 1075thegame.com. Register if you've not already for the Loyola Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest. We'll get to what's going on with John Mateer coming up in just a second. But first, we head out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Our guy Ray wants to weigh in on things we've been talking about so far this morning. Ray, appreciate the call as always. What's on your mind?
Hey, Tyler, Jack. Yeah, man, you guys really had some interesting points on the last segment talking about the coaches on the hot seat. Definitely, I think, Uncle Sam Pittman, I'm pulling hard for him. But, man, what a bad loss he had in Memphis. Jeez, that was tough. But being his buyout, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, of course, is around $8.5 million. I think that's just Tyson Food would say, here's your check, get out of here, buddy.
Sure.
If things don't go right. Billy Napier, yeah, he's probably gone, but I believe his buyout's like $20 million, $25 million. So Florida's they're going to bite the bullet on that one. But, and you guys were talking Lane Kiffin. I don't know if it happens, but it almost makes too much sense for Lane Kiffin not to be at Florida. I don't know why. I just see that. I think if Lane Kiffin goes to Florida, they'll be back to Spurrier days. I truly believe that. So if I'm Florida, I'm a fan of Florida. I'm saying, how much money do you need from each one of us to make this happen? I mean, it just makes so much sense. Don't you think so, Jack?
It does. It does. I agree. And that's why I said, it's not a matter of whether Ole Miss is going to let go of Lane. That's not going to happen. He's had success there. And
yeah, he can stay there as long as he wants.
He can stay there as long as he wants, Ray. But obviously, we hear, the whole Billy Napier, maybe he'll be fired. Who knows? I mean, look, if my prediction's right, I think that'll happen. I think Lane would probably be the guy. I mean, why not? I mean, he's great for that system. And I agree with your take about him being like that Spurrier that Florida needs.
Oh, they'll be right back at it. But the one that's really intriguing is the team we played this weekend with Mark Stoops. I could be wrong, guys, but from what I understand, his agent worked out a $30 million buyout is what they'd be on the table right now. I mean to tell you, my goodness, and I really think Kentucky, they want to win in football. I give them a lot of credit for a basketball school. They really show out, and they really want to win in football. But I think the powers to be and some of the big contributors are thinking, we have thoroughbreds and we have basketball. We got to get back to basketball. So I really think there's a conscious effort there for them to get back to basketball. But, I could be wrong. But it'll be interesting what happens. I don't think anybody got fired last year in the SEC, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And I called in, I think, during the summer, and I don't know if you guys were talking about, but I kind of jumped in, the importance of your coordinators. And, I mean, I've seen here at Carolina about 2 coaches ago where even a position coach, a wrong hire on a position coach can almost – write your program. But I got to think about the coordinator, and I heard this. I even looked it up. Like Dabo up there in Clemson, when Brent Venables was his DC, his winning percentage was like 90%. I mean, it was unbelievable. But you take Venables out, and that's, I think, about 7 or 8 seasons that Dabo's been the coach without Venables, his winning percentage is only like 65%. So it really makes you wonder if they're ever going to get to that elite status. I mean, they're a good program, of course, but it makes you wonder if they'll ever get to that elite status again. But, hey, guys, that's all I had to say. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate it as always there, Ray. 803-404-6100. And, by the way, I looked this up. According to the Courier-Journal, if Kentucky decided to terminate Mark Stoops after the 2025 season, they'd owe him about $40 million because they would owe him 75% of his remaining salary because his deal right now runs through June of 2031. So, yeah, that's not Jimbo Fisher territory of $77 million or whatever it was, but still, that's a pretty hefty price tag. But here's the thing about Mark Stoops. Ever since he flirted with A&M 2 years ago, nothing's gone right. Mm-mm. It's been ugly. I think there's a lack of trust there now. So, yeah, again, it's a basketball school, and that'd be a lot of money that could make its way towards the hardwood. But, again, I don't feel great about Mark Stoops' job security, and certainly by 2029, I don't think he's at Kentucky anymore.
I do wonder how that would have impact, basketball there. I mean, that's everything out there in Lexington. And, they have a good thing going right now with Mark Pope and the players that they have there, coming off a pretty good season that first year with Pope. But I wonder how that would affect if they had to pay the buyout. I mean, what does that do for that program? I mean, it sets football back
Sure.
a lot, obviously. I mean, they would be, kind of at the bottom of the SEC, I think, for a bit. But I wonder what that would do for basketball. It's an interesting point and take there.
Yeah, and again, we'll see if this year can be any better for Kentucky. We certainly hope not, and that includes a loss this weekend to South Carolina. Some pretty interesting news from a national standpoint yesterday. John Mateer is set to have surgery on his hand after he apparently injured it in the first quarter against Auburn on Saturday. He still proceeded to throw for 271 yards and a touchdown even with that hand injury, but Oklahoma goes into a bye this week. They'll play Kent State next week, Texas the week after that in the State Fair game, and then, of course, South Carolina. We don't know the exact timetable as of right now. They say about 3 weeks, and he could potentially maybe return for Texas, but it does seem like an almost certainty that he will be back by the South Carolina game, which I think for a lot of South Carolina fans sounds very on brand, right?
Oh, yeah, totally on brand. And I think I saw at most it could be about a month, but yeah, I've seen that 3-week range out there too. I mean, look, if you have to get surgery on your hand, I mean, I feel like that's got to be, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but if it's a month and they say it's a month, then I mean, you got 24 days until South Carolina plays Oklahoma. I mean, that's less than a month. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it comes at the right time because Oklahoma does have the bye week this week. They play Kent State, and then they play Texas in Dallas. But and then South Carolina after that. I mean, it would be very on brand for Carolina to be that first game against Oklahoma, or our first game against Mateer coming back, and then Mateer just lights it up. I mean, he's a great player. It stinks to see injuries happen anytime because, I mean, this is the Heisman frontrunner right now.
Yeah.
And, I don't think anyone's really, really stood out like head and shoulders this year, but Mateer is definitely that frontrunner guy, and it opens the door for somebody else to potentially step up because, I don't know, man, I just can't see him winning the Heisman at this point.
I was going to say, did this kind of effectively kill the Heisman campaign? Because let's say he does miss 2 whole games against Kent State and Texas, and, I mean, his numbers could still be good, but is that enough to deter you from voting him for the Heisman if he only plays maybe 10 games this year?
He would have to light it up, I think, the rest of the way. And he's had a great year already, but he would really have to continue that where he picked up or where he started and pick up where he left off. But, again, missing 2 games, I think he could still get to New York for the Heisman ceremony, but winning it, and again, maybe someone else just doesn't. Maybe the rest of the contenders just really don't stand, far and away as the best player in college football this year. But I just I don't know. I mean, I think it's still open for debate if he can get there, but I don't know if he'd win it.
Here is my question, and this has been talked about. I saw Herb Street talking about it. I think Heather Dinich talked about it on ESPN as well. How does the committee view games that Oklahoma might lose if he's not playing, right? Like, we know for sure he's out against Kent State. They don't need him to beat Kent State. That's fine. Michael Hawkins Jr., the backup's going to play. Remember him? Yeah. He's going to play.
That guy.
He's going to play for the next couple weeks. But let's just say it is a little more on the extreme end of the recovery, and he misses the Texas game and misses the South Carolina game. And let's say they proceed to lose both those games, right? They lose to Texas and they lose to South Carolina, and the games are, 1 score each, right? You lose to Texas 24-17, and let's say Carolina beats them 27-20 or something along those lines. And then he comes back, and they proceed to win down the stretch, and let's just say maybe they lose to LSU in the last week of the regular season, and they're 9-3, which, again, for the purposes of last year, we know that could probably have you on the bubble of the college football playoff. Would the committee excuse 2 losses to, let's just say, Texas and Oklahoma and South Carolina because Mateer's not there? Saying, well, it's a 1-score game, and if Mateer played, you'd probably win that game. Like, this is interesting because in years past, they've talked about, and specifically in 2017, I remember when when Clemson lost to Syracuse on a Friday night, Kelly Bryant got hurt in that game. And the committee kind of basically gave them a mulligan for that by saying, well, your quarterback got hurt, you're on the road, and we're not going to hold that against you. Would they potentially not hold a couple losses against Oklahoma if John Mateer's not playing?
You want to be 10-2 at the end of the year just to be safe because then at that point, I think you're automatically in. But 9-3 is interesting because we saw what happened last year with a lot of those teams that were on the bubble at 9-3, and they didn't get in. And I don't know if the same would apply here. Like, all right, so let's say they did lose to Texas. That's not the most surprising loss because Texas is really good, and plus you were down your quarterback. So I don't think that you can necessarily dock them for that. Now, if they lost to South Carolina, again, this is a South Carolina team that a few weeks ago was ranked top 10, but now they're out of the rankings and stuff. It's at South Carolina too, but if you lose that game, that's another tough loss. That okay, maybe that's strike one essentially. And then you lose at the end of the year to LSU. If you had 3 losses, typically I think that would leave you on the outside looking in. But considering the fact that Mateer was out for a few weeks, and then you look at the fact of, okay, who did they beat? Well, they got a top 15 win over Michigan right now. I know Auburn's unranked, but at the time they were ranked 22. And then as far as the rest of the schedule goes, you would have top 15 wins over Ole Miss and Tennessee, one of them being at Knoxville. You go to Alabama, you beat a good Alabama team. Who knows if they'll be ranked by then. And then you get Missouri and you beat them. That's a lot of quality wins right there that I think would make up for the shortcomings of, yeah, you lost to Texas without Mateer. Yeah, you lost to South Carolina without Mateer. You had Mateer, but you lost to LSU, a really good team, a top 5 team in the country. I think that would be the exception of like, okay, they would put a 9-3 team in, I think. But also it depends on like what happens around the rest of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, are there too many 10-win teams? Like, are we going to get into that type of scenario where there's just not enough room for that type of team to be in?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's very hard to theorize this out so far hypothetically, right? But and especially with so many variables of what other teams around the country are doing. But I think it's going to be interesting to see because, yeah, if they do lose a couple of games with John Mateer, who, again, right now is the Heisman front runner, I'm interested to see how the committee plays this because, again, I mentioned the Kelly Bryant thing. They quite literally left Florida State out of the college football playoff because they said, well, you don't have your quarterback. We don't think you're as good of a team anymore. So how do they play this? I'm intrigued to see what unfolds.
And I'm also intrigued to see how Oklahoma does with Michael Hawkins Jr. We remember him from the South Carolina game last year. Did not look very good. I mean, he had to be benched for Jackson Arnold in that game. Don't forget, he got the start in that game against South Carolina. It looked awful. So if you're a Gamecock fan, you hope to God that he's Oklahoma's starting quarterback here in a few weeks in Columbia. Again, I think it's going to be a very close call to see if he is, if Mateer is available for that game. But, I mean, look, that would give South Carolina a little bit of an edge. I mean, you get to go up against that defense, but, hey, look what your defense did against Hawkins last year. Hopefully you can replicate that.
Well, and Hawkins, he didn't have a good O-line or had no receivers to throw to, so that didn't help him out either.
So
but
it's a different Oklahoma team.
But it sounds like they expect Mateer to be back by the South Carolina game, which, again, seems very on brand for South Carolina. But if he's not, that does raise some interesting questions if the season does start to go a little bit sideways for Oklahoma. Speaking of going sideways, there's a lot of teams that have already worked themselves out of college football playoff contention. We'll dive into our new edition of the College Football Playoff Eliminator coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Wednesday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday here on The Game. As we do each and every Wednesday, it is time for our college football playoff eliminator. As we go conference by conference to determine who has no shot at reaching the college football playoff after another week of play. Now that we're 4 weeks into the season, can we add more teams? We'll start off, of course, with the SEC, where we have already determined that both Kentucky and Florida have no shot at reaching the college football playoff. And unfortunately, I have to ask the question, are we putting South Carolina on this list?
That's a good question, Tyler. I don't think they're going to the playoff, but hey, I mean, you got 2 losses. They're really early in the year. You know what? Yeah, let's eliminate them. Because again, are we really expecting them to go through this gauntlet in October and November unscathed? Absolutely not. So
that would be the accomplishment of all accomplishments if you did that. And if you went 10-2 with the schedule you have remaining, not only do you deserve to be in the college football playoff, heck, you probably deserve to be like a top 5 or 6 seed at that point, because that would be a murderer's row that I don't know any team could take down. Because here's the thing, your margin for error is basically 0 right now. And I know 9-3 got you in the conversation of the playoff a year ago, but again, you won a lot of those games down the stretch, a lot of those against ranked opponents, and man, if you lose even one more game, I don't, because again, like Missouri last year, they went 9-3 and they weren't anywhere near the playoffs. Not every 9-3 is created the same. It depends on who you beat, who you lose to, and again, I don't like your prospects right now, unfortunately.
No, they're done in my opinion. The way we look at them now is, okay, are they into a bowl game? You know, if that's the discussion you need to have, then I think, I don't care how many losses you have right now. It could be 2, and you are technically not eliminated yet. But, yeah, I mean, you're pretty much done at that point. I think the same could be said for Arkansas as well. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I like Arkansas. I think Taylon Green's a very good quarterback, but he didn't look great against Memphis, and they lost. I mean, they're 2-2 right now, and they got Notre Dame coming in this weekend. Maybe that could be the signature win for Sam Pittman that keeps him going a little bit longer. Maybe that gets Arkansas going, because there is talent on this team. But Arkansas, we don't expect to do much of anything. Maybe be a bowl team this year.
Yeah, it's not pretty, especially when you look at the fact that they've lost the last 2 games in a very similar way when it comes to fumbling in opponent territory with an opportunity to win. That's tough to swallow. And again, Bobby Petrino's seemingly working behind the scenes to try and take the head coaching job when Pittman inevitably probably gets fired coming up here, if not in the middle of the season, at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Let's shift over to the Big Ten.
Yeah, so far we have already eliminated UCLA, who's fired their head coach, and then Northwestern. Got to say, man, I think I'm ready to put Wisconsin on this list.
Me too. I was about to say the same thing. Man, I feel bad for Wisconsin fans right now. I mean that you just see the photos of that turnout on Saturday. I mean, it's a tough scene right now, and I really did think Luke Fickell was going to be the guy to get things going there out in Madison after having so much success at Cincinnati. But it's been rough, and you got fans starting to chant "Fire Fickell" and stuff. I think Wisconsin is going to have a real rough season this year.
Didn't it seem like that was going to be a good hire, though? Didn't it seem
That's
like
what I'm saying.
He was the perfect guy to take over that job?
Like, it felt like a perfect match. Like, he did this at Cincinnati. That's already pretty up in the Northeast or whatever. Well, my geography's not great, but up kind of north a little bit. I think he could do the same thing at Wisconsin, but that just has not happened at all. And it's disappointing, because I think football's better when Wisconsin is typically pretty good.
I'll go ahead and add Purdue to this list as well. They've played 2 quality opponents in USC or Southern Cal and Notre Dame, and they haven't really come close in either one of those.
Yeah, so let's eliminate those guys as well. Again, we're getting into that territory now where if you have a loss or 2 and it looks pretty bad and you're just not supposed to be that good this year, I think we could safely eliminate you.
Let's now move on to the ACC. We've already put 3 teams on this list in Stanford, Virginia Tech, and Boston College. Are you ready to add anybody else?
I am ready to add the Clemson Tigers to this list. 1-3 on the year, 0-2 in conference play. You know what's crazy about them, Tyler, is that they're probably still going to find a way to sneak into the ACC championship game. I know that's crazy.
So?
No, I actually don't think so. But it wouldn't shock me if they did, just because we saw what happened last year. They were 9-3, looked to be done, and then they get some magical help from Syracuse beating Miami to get into the ACC championship. Like, Clemson is going to win a few games. Can they go on a run? I don't know. They got a lot of problems, but they also have a lot of talent, and I feel like it's just a matter of them really just turning it on. But I don't know. I mean, this Clemson team they've looked bad through 4 games, and realistically, man, they could be 0-4 right now.
Yeah, and look, they have an easier schedule. They still got to play SMU. They still got to play Florida State, and they still got to play Louisville on the road on a Friday night. Like, they're inevitably at least going to trip up, I'd say, one more time. And
at that point, they'll be done.
That point, they'd really be done. That'd be an 8-4 season. And again, Florida State and Miami look like a different breed in the ACC as of right now that I don't see out of Clemson. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't see it happening this year, and I think we're all curious on just how far they will end up tumbling.
I do have a few. Before we move on, there are other teams I want to put on this list.
Okay.
North Carolina.
All right.
Can we say that at this point that
Sure.
the Bill Belichick experiment has been a failure so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It just has not been.
Which, by the way, they play Clemson this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's next week.
Or next week. Sorry, they're on bye, but next weekend.
And SMU has kind of been disappointing, man. They lost to TCU this past weekend in the battle for the Iron Skillet.
Iron Skillet, that's right.
Yeah, that sucks that that's going away. They also lost a game that I don't think they should have lost to Baylor earlier in the year. I mean, their best wins right now are in East, Texas A&M, and then Missouri State. I mean, they'd really have to go flawless the rest of the way to get in, just to probably make the. Now, that's the benefit here is that they've only played. Well, they haven't even played a conference game yet, so.
Nope.
They have a clean slate coming up here, but they can really not. They could probably lose one more game and get in, but I mean they've already kind of dropped their game so far. So maybe not ready to put SMU out just yet, but North Carolina, I feel like it's going to be a real rough year for them.
And last we go to the Big 12, we've already eliminated Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Colorado. Anybody we're ready to put on the list this week?
So Kansas State, Colorado. Who else did we say? Sorry.
OK State.
West Virginia. They looked bad against Kansas. I mean, and they've lost to Ohio already. I mean, it's
tough to come back from.
They had the great win over Pitt, but man, I mean, and I think West Virginia will have some okay wins this year, but I'm not expecting much out of this team,
especially for a conference like the Big 12 that likely is a one-bid league again, where you have to win the conference championship. And look, Rich Rod, it may take a while to get it back to where he wants it to be, but yeah, a little rough out of the gate so far for West Virginia.
Yeah, so that would probably be the only other team I would add. You could easily say Baylor as well, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they do have the good win over SMU, so going on the road and beating them there. I mean, I don't know, and they also lost on a last-second field goal to Arizona State, so. The Baylor will have a chance to get back on track here with games against OK State coming up, and then Kansas State. You should be 4-2 after that, and then we'll see where they can go. They have a really good quarterback, so we'll see what happens with down there in Waco.
The list is getting longer by the week, and
I'm liking it. This is where it actually gets more fun for us.
And now we're actually going to get into conference play, and we can really start knocking some teams off over the next couple weeks. We'll get into our NFL top 5, bottom 5 coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday here on the game. We'll get into an NFL top 5, bottom 5 in just a moment. But since we are talking about the NFL, I feel like there's no better place to look for who sprung a leak than the National Football League. And, man, there's a lot of candidates. I can't determine who sprung a leak worse. Is it the Rams for blowing their lead to the Eagles and then getting a game-winning field goal blocked? Is it the Jets for blocking a game-winning field goal and then still letting the Bucs drive down the field and kick a game-winning field goal themselves later on?
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy seeing all the blocked field goals around the NFL. I'll say the craziest one probably was just the Philly one, just because it happened twice.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the game was already over when Jordan Davis was returning that kick, but I mean, just a crazy moment to end the game.
If you had Philadelphia covering the 3.5, you very much liked seeing that.
No, totally.
That's what we call a bad beat. Very bad beat. So, yes, we'll give who sprung a leak to Los Angeles Rams, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection for how the end of that game went there in Philly, which brings us into our NFL top 5, bottom 5. We'll kind of speed run this and kind of combine both segments here. I have a philosophy right now of you're in my top 5, you got to be undefeated until there's less than 5 undefeated teams. If you're in my bottom 5, you haven't won a game until there's less than 5 teams that have 0 records. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. No, I would say that's totally fair.
So I'll start off with the Eagles. Again, you already have the win against the Chiefs. You now have this crazy comeback win against the Rams. 19-1 in their past 20 games. What else can you say, man?
I mean, honestly, they've looked great so far. They're my number 1 team as well, the Eagles. They have looked phenomenal so far. And look, did it look great against the Rams at times? No, you were down 26-7. But the fact that you came back and you won that game, that is just there's a reason why this team won the Super Bowl last year, and that's a reason why they're still 3-0.
Who's your number 1?
I said the Eagles.
Also the Eagles?
Yeah,
okay.
I said the Eagles.
My number 2 is going to go to the Chargers. I don't know if anybody's ever started off the season 3-0 against 3 divisional opponents. That's kind of a weird scheduling quirk, but man, I mean, kind of saying the same things we said about them the past couple of weeks. Looking really strong and taking down what many think's a very formidable opponent in the Broncos.
For me, number 2, and I do have the Chargers in my top 5 still. Number 2 for me is going to be the Buffalo Bills. Nothing changed with 1 and 2, and everything will change after 2. But for me, the Bills have looked pretty solid so far. Wasn't overly impressed with the way they played against the Dolphins on Thursday night, but still, you're 3-0, got the win. Defense has looked a lot better through these last few weeks, but there's still some work to do. But the Bills are 3-0 and looking very sharp so far.
They're my number 3 team. Again, it wasn't the prettiest game against the Dolphins, as the Dolphins did hang in there for a while, but the Bills eventually pulled away. Again, they seem to have everything that they need offensively and defensively, and once again, the AFC East runs through them.
Now, for me, number 3, this is where things start to change.
Okay.
The LA Chargers moving up a slot. So, I mean, look, some teams fell this weekend, and, obviously, spoiler alert, the Ravens lost again, so they are out of my top 5. Chargers move up to number 3. I've been super impressed, man. I mean, 3-0 to start the year. I mean, could they win the AFC West? I think it's a real possibility. Don't count the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. They're finally in the win column now that they beat the Giants, but I really do think the Chargers, I mean, they're doing some good things this year. Got a good offense, got a good defense. I think this could be a really strong year for LA.
I'm going to keep riding this train until they give me a reason not to. Got the Colts at number 4, man. And look, I get it. They played the Titans this past weekend, which they did finally punt. For the first time this year, they did finally punt. They've only had 1 punt on the entire season. But, I mean, is Danny Dimes fixed? Were the Giants the one holding him back? Like, what a revival, at least through these first 3 weeks of the regular season.
He's been awesome early on this season. Now, is it going to be sustainable? I don't know. The one thing I think that is sustainable is what Jonathan Taylor does. 338 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns so far. He's averaging 112 yards per game so far. The Colts are my number 4 as well, so we've both agreed on that. Do I think it's going to be like this long term? I don't know, but they're off to a really nice start this year, and they play in a pretty weak division. And I mean, the Texans are off to an awful start this year, who we thought might win the division again. So I think this is the Colts division right now to win.
Speaking of weak divisions, that leads me to my number 5. the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 3-0 on the season, and my goodness, they keep finding ways to win. Late scores on all three opponents, including the game-winning field goal on Sunday to put them over the Jets, who you thought they had blown the lead to when they returned that blocked field goal for a touchdown. But Baker Mayfield drives down the field, gets the field goal there at the very end, and the Bucs now 3-0.
So they're my number 5 as well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They beat the Falcons by 3, they beat the Texans by 1, and they beat the Jets by 2. That is a really tight margin of victory. However, end of the day, you're 3-0. Does not matter how you get those wins, so long as you win. I think Baker Mayfield's a very good quarterback. I like what they've got going down there in Tampa. Mike Evans is my fantasy wide receiver. Hopefully he gets a little bit better. But, yeah, man, I mean, the Bucs are looking good. They're my number 5 team.
I say Emeka Ibuka probably taking some of those fantasy points away from him.
He probably is, but he's a lot of fun to watch. So I think we can allow it for right now.
Which leads us into the NFL bottom 5, and I think for me it's perfect transition because number 28 is, and again, these are all teams that have not won a game for me, is the New York Jets. Man, they thought they had it. And by the way, have you seen the memes of Aaron Glenn with his strut after that block?
I did.
Touchdown?
I did see that. That was quite funny.
It's one of those things that works with just about any song you put it to. My favorite was September by Earth, Wind, and Fire because it matches up perfectly, and that also happened on September 21st, funny enough. Man, they thought they had it, but they haven't put together a whole game yet.
No, they haven't.
Growing pains with the first-year head coach, but number 28 for me, the New York Jets.
Yeah, but this is who they are. For me, number 28, I'm going with the Houston Texans. My gosh, I'm so disappointed in this team. I mean, they have looked just like they haven't done enough offensively to win you games. When you scored 9 points against the Rams, you score 10 points against the Jaguars, you're going to lose games. And they're 0-3. And, yeah, they've had a lot of close losses, all one-score losses so far this year. But end of the day, you're 0-3. And, I mean, look, you're playing in the AFC South. You got to be better than that. There's no excuse. So 0-3 to start the year. Give me the Texans at number 28.
My number 29, going to stay right in New Jersey, New York Giants. We are 3 weeks into the season, and the fans have already turned on your quarterback. And I know Russ put up his career high in passing numbers against Dallas in that crazy game that went into overtime a couple weeks ago. But my goodness, he immediately went back to being bad Russ this past week against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And yeah, Jackson Dart's going to start this weekend, and I don't blame Dable for making that decision.
No, and I'm excited to see Jackson Dart out there again. Russ, just some of the throws he made, it's like, what on earth? Like, how is he playing quarterback in the NFL still? I mean, look, he's only getting older. I mean, it's been rough so far for the Giants, and yes, they are my number 29 team as well. And here's to hoping Jackson Dart can kind of be the savior for the Giants. I don't blame Dable for doing it because let's be real, he needs Dart to do well to save his job.
Oh yeah, his butt's definitely on the line. Number 30 for me, and shout out to all the former Gamecocks, Rattler, Kai Kroger, who got annihilated on that punt return on Sunday, Torricelli Simpkins, all those guys, they're doing their best, but man, the Saints, as competitive they were in the first two games, they were not on Sunday against the Seahawks. It's going to be a long year in New Orleans.
It is. They're my number 30 as well. So we're kind of on the same wavelength there, and I think we'll probably be the rest of the way as we get going talking about the rest of these teams. But, yeah, the Saints, we kind of expected this at some point. They had the close losses to the Cardinals and the 49ers, but I think the seal kind of finally broke for them in a bad way with the Seahawks this past weekend. So it's just not looking good right now for the Saints. I hate it for Rattler because, I think he's actually playing pretty well this year.
Yeah, well, as long as he puts good tape out there and he can hang around the league, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Number 31 for me, Tennessee Titans. Congratulations. You finally scored 20 points on Sunday, but you lost by 21. And look, I didn't expect anything great out of them this year. New quarterback, really kind of trying to rebuild this thing. But it's been about as I expected to start the year, and they're 31 for me.
Yeah, same here. I'm with you on that with the Titans being at 31. I mean, I'll be interested to see what Cam Ward can do moving forward, but this is going to be the year where it's like you're probably getting like around that number 1 pick territory. Like I think we're going to end up seeing the Saints and Titans compete for that number 1 pick. I mean, neither team are very good, and it's going to be probably a long year out there in Tennessee. So give me the Titans at 31.
Don't count out this team as being in the mix for the number 1 pick. Our number 32 team is none other than the Miami Dolphins. I feel like a broken record, but when your coach is the favorite to get fired first, I can't really put you above dead last.
So the Dolphins and Jets play on Monday Night Football. By the way, did you see the uniforms that the Dolphins released? The black uniforms?
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about those. I'll tell you this, man. If the Dolphins lose, because I didn't include them in the number one pick territory, because I think they just have so much talent offensively. It's like, come on, you got to be better than this with Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Tua, Tyreek, all these guys. But if they lose to the Jets on Monday Night Football next week, which is going to be a snooze fest of a game, if they lose that game, then count me in as them being a number one pick potentially.
By the way, that's another reason for me to put them in the bottom, at the very bottom, because they violated my rule. If black's not in your team color, don't wear black.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look particularly great, but they're my number 32 as well. No surprise there. Just not looking good this year, and I think Mike McDaniel's running on borrowed time at this point.
There's your NFL Top 5, Bottom 5. Week number 3 gets started tomorrow night with Thursday Night Football. We'll come back, wrap up the hour, talk some racing with Jen Jensen as the Extra Point rolls along on your Wednesday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point on your Wednesday. Tyler Head along with you. Ready to talk some racing with Jen Jensen as the NASCAR playoffs continue on. We are now 4 races in, 6 races to go. Last week we cut it down from 16 to 12, and the first round of 12 race is the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where Ryan Blaney comes out on top. Just when you think the Gibbs cars are maybe running away with this thing, here comes Penske once again on a flat track, and the champion from 2 years ago, Ryan Blaney, already through to the penultimate round of the championship.
Yeah, they, as William Byron put it, Penske was definitely dialed in, and they were pretty much in another zip code. Like, they were just that good this weekend. It makes you wonder. It's like, okay, we watched Gibbs in that first round. Move out of the way. We're here.
Yeah, and, we can be critical of the way the format is, and we've done that plenty of times, but Penske's got this figured out to a T. I mean, they may have mediocre regular seasons and do just enough to win and get in, but when they get in the playoffs, for whatever reason, they turn it up to another gear and do what they need to do to get themselves to the Final Four. And obviously in the last 3 years, it's been all Penske winning the championship. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'd be shocked if Blaney or Logano or Peck, even Cindric, who's still alive, ends up winning this thing, because they just, again, kind of have this figured out for whatever reason.
Yeah, they really do. It's amazing. Like you said, they can just kind of float along in the season and have glimmers of greatness, but then it's like they know what the pressure is. And Logano has even said that in different interviews, like, yeah, we know what we need to do to win. And he's even made comments about the fact that even the crew chief, even how they handle things is a little different, just to manipulate them to get more out of their drivers.
Well, and it wasn't just the 3 main in-house Penske cars. Josh Berry ran second in this race. Josh Berry had a phenomenal race. He's not in the playoffs anymore, but he ran incredibly well, and it just kind of tells you that, this is a track that's very indicative of what Phoenix is, very flat, mile type of racetrack. So that tells me that, guess what, whatever Penske cars end up making into the Final Four are probably going to be the cars to beat once again for the 4th year in a row.
That's actually a really good point, because, yeah, they are similar tracks in nature. And you look at Logano, who has won multiple times in Kansas, and I don't know. I think you're right. I think Penske's going to be the ones that, if they can get to the round of 4, I think they're going to definitely be somebody to deal with.
So that was not the main topic of conversation coming away from this race, unfortunately. Very, more exciting than average New Hampshire race, I feel like. Some of these races can be a little mundane, but we got a lot of action, a lot of cautions, and one notable one between teammates. Well, really kind of a trifecta of teammates, but ended up boiling over when Denny Hamlin dumped not only his teammate Ty Gibbs, but the grandson of Joe Gibbs, who owns the team, after Ty had been racing him and Christopher Bell, who are both still alive in the championship, for 11th and 12th place. And, they're like, hey, we're fighting for a championship here, bud. No need to go this hard. And Denny decided to take care of it himself. I don't know what that Monday morning meeting looked like, but I'm sure it was an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm thinking, the words awkward probably came to mind. But, Ty Gibbs, he's young, and I've heard comments about maybe his maturity. I know he had some issues in the Xfinity Series as well, where he doesn't necessarily listen. He's interested in winning for him, and I get it. Everybody's in for themselves. But when you do have a championship on the line, and you've got other drivers on your team that are trying to get through, you might want to give them a little bit more room.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Ty Gibbs has tons of ability, and I'm surprised it's taken him this long to still be searching for victory lane for the first time, but he can get in over his head a little bit. I mean, he wrecked at the time his teammate Brandon Jones in the round of 8 in the Xfinity Series a couple years ago. That didn't go over well. So we kind of have a history of not really cutting anybody slack, but God forbid if he would have wrecked Hamlin or Bell, and Bell nearly got caught up in the incident when he spun around.
Right.
And he could have potentially altered their hopes for a championship.
Yeah, and I am curious, what were the marching orders coming out of this meeting? I know Denny was hoping that the brass would kind of put it to Ty, but yet in the same token, is it right for Hamlin to take out his teammate too? There was catch-22 to me.
Yeah, I'm never in favor of putting your own teammate in the wall. I think you can move him out of the way and send a message, but that's maybe going a little bit too far. But again, if Hamlin felt like his championship aspirations were in jeopardy by his teammate racing him aggressively, maybe it felt like he had no choice. You know what I mean? It's such a weird situation we don't really see too much.
No, absolutely. And I do, again, I think Denny can be outspoken, and I'm not always a fan of kind of his thought process. But again, championship on the line, yeah, get out of my way. Again, spinning him, not so thrilled about that.
Yeah, so now we head off to Kansas this upcoming weekend. Again, 2 races left in the round of 8. Roval will be coming up with the next eliminations here in a couple weeks. And you know, we kind of talked about this last week. This is pretty tight. I mean, when you look at everybody in this round, only separated by about 60-ish points, going from William Byron all the way down to Bubba Wallace, and that can fluctuate quite a bit just in these next 2 races alone. So nobody can really have a bad day, or that really could hinge your championship hopes.
No, and and I think I love that as far as, again, whether or not we love the playoffs and whatever. Right now, we've been pretty treated to having the playoffs, the standings being pretty close. So there's no total guarantee as to who's going to be advancing, and that part I really do like.
Sure. Should be a fun weekend at Kansas, and I think we all know SVG is probably going to win the Roval. So here's your last chance to probably lock yourself in the round of 8.
Right.
See a win coming up this weekend.
100%. It's going to be fun. I love Kansas. I think it offers great racing, and I think it's a strong track for Penske. So we'll see who comes out victorious.
Well, we'll talk about it next week and preview the Roval then. Appreciate it as always, Jen.
Thanks.
That'll do it for hour number 2 of the Extra Point. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Wednesday on the Game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system. But did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can help. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and also no credit check required. That's right. So if you are the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air, comfort you can trust.
11 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Welcome in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here as we navigate you through the middle of your week. We've obviously spent a lot of time this week unpacking what went wrong against Missouri this past weekend, but now we can finally start to set our sights ahead of what's going to be happening this weekend against Kentucky. And guys, what is obviously a very must-win game for Carolina when you consider what they have coming after the bye week.
Yeah, I think we even talked about it going into this past week, how important it was if you were going to, get back to possibly having any chance, if you kept improving, of meeting some of those really high expectations coming into the season, and how just the way that the schedule set up was you needed some wins during this early part of the year. And obviously you are behind the 8 ball already at this point. And, guys, I think at this juncture, it's just about going out, focusing on the here or the now, trying to play better ball and trying to stack some wins. I think you kind of put all the outside potential expectations from preseason completely out of the way at this point and just go try to play ball. And, if there's any chance of just really getting this thing going again, and I know as a whole, that stretch of, 5 or so games in there, it does look daunting. But as we know, things shift in the SEC all the time, and what you think a game looks like now still could potentially shift before you get to that actual game. But the first step in making that even matter is to just start to play better, to find some confidence. I think, Beamer yesterday in the press conference, and I'm sure we're going to get to some of his comments, really tried to point out, hey, here are the things that we can hang our hat on that we did do well. And so I think it's more about, at this point, starting to kind of go all in on those things. Beamer said something that I frankly have kind of felt the same way for quite some time. The idea of throwing to set up the run and what you do have in the passing game right now. And, so I think I don't want to say season over if you lose this week, but realistically, it's going to be just really hard to dig yourself out. If you win this week, you're still behind the 8 ball, don't get me wrong. But something about winning, going into a bye week, and kind of setting yourself up for what is ahead, having that extra week to prepare for your next opponent, knowing that it's going to be a tough game for that stretch, it just would feel a lot differently here, whereas there's a lot of people who are already upset, but I can't imagine how upset they're going to be if you don't get a dub at home against Kentucky this weekend.
Well, and I was talking to somebody last night, guys, and brought up a great point. I mean, in addition to just at that point you'd be 2-3, 0-3 in the SEC, you would have lost at that point to Vandy, Kentucky, Missouri. And we've all, I think everybody knows that Missouri has had a good program for the past several years under Eli Drinkwitz. I think fans generally know that South Carolina had the longest SEC winning streak against Vandy, including some other schools that have been better programs in the past many years than South Carolina. Even they fell victim to that. And people generally know that this year's Vandy team looks pretty good. We'll see, as they go on. They're going to be 5-0 heading into the toughest part of their SEC slate. But you would have lost to Vandy, Missouri, Kentucky. You wouldn't be, a lot of people had dreams and aspirations, maybe even expectations of being 5-0 and then going and tackling, having a bye week, then going to Baton Rouge. Let's see what we can make happen on this back half. You'd be way behind the 8 ball on that. And you would have lost 2 games at night at Williams-Brice, which is so you just start adding all these things up. Tough potential pill to swallow. But to your point, Wes, when things are bad, we have this dynamic where people don't want to point out anything positive. However, building on what you have done well, that's what you have to lean on in times like this. You've got to have something to build on to actually improve. there has not been much good with this offense so far. But what has been good? It's been the passing game. It's been South Carolina's explosiveness in the passing game. That's something that you have to lean on, continue, increase. I mean, heck, South Carolina had pretty darn good passing day against Missouri. That was despite a lot of pressure, right? That was despite missing an opportunity for another touchdown, some other big plays in the passing game where you were just a little bit off. This isn't a team, I don't think, where you can say, all right, let's basically go from worst to first or worst to really good running the football. If that happened, great. Is that reasonable? Probably not, unfortunately. But can you keep the elements of your offense that have been successful, and that has been really the passing game, and can you become average at running the football over the course of the rest of this season? Can you cut back on some of the absolute drive killer mistakes that you've made throughout the first 4 games? We will see. I think those are the key questions, but you do have to lean on what you can build on, and I think that's the passing game so far.
Yeah, and I think, guys, so to me, like, all right, you have to kind of try to look at the whole picture here, too. Like, go back to the Vandy game before Sellers goes down. It looked like, hey, there's a little bit of room here in the running game. You look at what they were doing against Missouri, and you're saying there's just literally no room to run on most of these plays. And, you know, so I think week to week that is going to look a little bit different against some opponents. Like, yeah, we saw some great things from the passing game. Are other teams you play going to bust in the secondary the way Missouri did? Probably not. So you are going to have to still have some type of balance. But I think the emergence of Vandrevius Jacobs, who, again, I think you give him all the credit in the world for just hanging in there despite, you know, we all kind of talked about the 3 returners and all these freshmen, and I feel like Jacobs was the middle child who was just getting, you know, none of the attention, and he decided to keep working as opposed to kind of go in the shell, and it's paying off for him. I think we started to see Brian Rowe and why he's been talked about all offseason. We're seeing some of those things come along in the passing game. So can you lean on that while possibly opening things up a little bit more in the running game as you go? And, you know, I think coaches look at process. And when we look at results and fans look at results, we say, it's not close at all, man. It's not close. And they're seeing on film all these little things where you go, man, if one more guy does their job a little bit better, this play is differently. I thought, going back and watching the game, the miss from Sellers in the fourth quarter on 3rd down over the middle as part of the 2 3-and-outs where South Carolina had the ball down only 6, that had to be just excruciating to rewatch because it wasn't just a miss. If you go back and look, Sellers looks at the defense pre-snap, sees something he likes, at least changes the protection, but I think actually changed the play. Gets back, gets everybody settled. There's not perfect protection, but there's enough protection. And Sellers does something that I think we need to see him work on. He steps up into the pocket. He keeps his eyes downfield. He resets his feet. He does everything right. He reads the right guy. He flips the ball out, and it's just a little bit out in front of Jacobs to the point that I am wondering, like in live you go, it's a bad throw. Was Jacobs supposed to keep running through that ball a little bit more? Because there was a quick clip of Shula on TV, on that copy, going straight to Jacobs. And it wasn't necessarily him going after him, but he was definitely having a conversation with him. And you could see Sellers looking up at the replay. And so basically, live, you're like, it's a missed throw. When you're rewatching it, you're going, was it just a little bit of a miscommunication there about exactly where he was going to be? Point being, you had so many great elements there in that play, but the final little part of it, you were just a hair off. And that play, if they hit that play and have momentum, literally with everything else that went on, who knows what happens from there. And so it just goes to show you how thin that line is between winning and losing, even when you rush for -9 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just these little so I think, to Beamer's point, if the passing game is where you're going to find some advantages, you got to keep honing it. You got to, if you feel like you're executing 65% of the time at a very high level, can you get that to 75% of the time? The running game, if it's not going to be great, can you eliminate some of the just really bad? Can you chop off the bottom 10% of your results in the running game to where it's not just killing you? And then ultimately, guys, you just got to end the pre-snap penalties. I feel like they want to go hurry up after they hit some of these explosive plays and find some rhythm. But then when they try to hustle to the line of scrimmage and keep the defense on their heels, that is a lot of times when they end up, guys don't get lined up in time. One of the times they hit a nice play, they tried to introduce some rhythm, some pace, and guess what? Boom, another penalty. Now you're starting 1st and 15, and you've completely lost the momentum for that drive.
I'm glad you brought up that throw, Wes. Couple quick points here before we hit the break. I talked to an OC on the phone last night, and it was said that, hey, the receiver hesitated on that dig route. That basically Sellers was anticipating where he was going to be. It was a little bit off. The broadcasters, of course, Sellers sails that throw a little bit. They actually put it on the receiver. And Jacobs he had a really good game. That catch he made, down to the 2, I mean, what a catch. He's been really good so far this season. But they actually, to your point, like, I think that's what Shula was telling him, hey, don't hesitate out of that route. Like, run that thing full speed. They hit that play. It despite everything else, maybe it's a little bit different, I think. But you're right. Like, South Carolina's lack of run game, too. I mean, that's one reason they've been so feast or famine. I mean, a lot of the big plays that they've made this year through the passing game have been on third downs, 3rd and long. Can you get out of those to where you're not having to come up with a big play on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, whatever it may be? Because then, like, the protection issues that they have are exacerbated when you're 3rd and long. When the team knows it's 3rd and 12, they know that you're passing the football most of the time, 85% of the time. You're going to go pass the football. That puts even more pressure on an offensive front that's had struggles in blocking. So even with the part of the passing game that we're looking at and saying, can you take that from 65% to 75%? The run game is actually a big element of that to help you get into some more manageable situations and take some of the pressure off this offense.
We'll get into what Coach Beamer had to say yesterday at his press conference, including the things they focus on winning each and every game, if those issues can be fixed during this week heading into Kentucky. That's coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game.
All right, guys, let me tell you about our friends at Integrated Media. Like we've been telling you, football season off and running, but you still got plenty of time if you want to upgrade that system for the rest of the way. That could be something, honestly, as simple as, hey, I just want to make my living room setup look a little bit cleaner, look a little bit more professional. Maybe you want them to hang the TV, hide the wires, or, maybe add some surround sound to it. Or, hey, maybe want to go all in on that just man cave, full system, home theater system, whatever it is, they can do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com. If you go to that website, it's going to show you, 1, how to contact them, but 2, a gallery and a list of some of the great things they've done at many homes around the Midlands. Just like they've been at my house, they've been at Chris's house. Let them come to your house as well. And all those sort of just tech upgrades you've been dreaming about, they can bring them to reality for you. Again, just head on over to integratedmediainc.com where you get more information about their services.
And welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. Tomorrow, we'll be out at Firehouse Subs at 2805 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia, right across from Lexington Medical Center. So come by and see us as we'll be hanging out all morning long there. And then Friday, the post-game show with Jay and Terry are going to be live at Savage Craft Ale Works from 3 until 6 at 430 Center Street, also over in West Columbia. So busy week for us out and about as we get you set for South Carolina and Kentucky coming up on Saturday. And obviously with the issues this team is facing and only so many hours in the week, the question was posed to Shane Beamer yesterday, how many things can be fixed during the week in the lead up to the game against Kentucky coming up on Saturday?
I mean, there's plenty. And again, we have what we have, Jack. We have our plan to win, like a lot of people have. And for us, that's run the ball, stop the run. That's win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle, play smart football, which is penalties, and then dominating the fourth quarter. Dominate the fourth quarter, meaning you win the fourth quarter. Play smart football, meaning you have less penalties than the other team. Run the ball and stop the run. That's yards per carry. Win the explosive play battle. That's a run over 12 or a pass over 18. And then win the turnover battle. That speaks for itself. So every week, you can go back to game 1 against Eastern Illinois back in 2021. If we do that, if we just do, I think it's 6 things that I just named. If we do half of those, we typically win every single game. And we didn't do anything the other night other than win the turnover battle. And I told the team going into it, if we, the last 2 trips that we've gone to Missouri, we haven't won the plan to win enough of it. And we didn't the other night. So to me, go back and do that. And if we can be a little bit better and do more than just winning the turnover battle, then we're going to feel pretty good on Saturday night.
So when you look at all those key points that he focuses on what it takes to win a game, and you look at the 4 games they've played so far this year, running the ball, it's been an issue. Stopping the run, been an issue. Winning the turnover battle, they've been fine with that. They've done a good job of hanging on to the ball on offense for the most part. Win the explosive play battle, kind of a mix. You were able to beat Vanderbilt in that regard, but you didn't win that battle against Missouri this past weekend. Play smart when you talk about pre-snap penalties and stuff like that, obviously a problem. And then dominate the fourth, that's also been an issue really outside of the first game against Virginia Tech where you ended up pulling away from them. So with those being the areas of focus, you can see how much work they have to do to get where they want to be.
Yeah, and I do think let's go back to symptom versus root. And I look at those things like, yes, they are good things to focus on, but at the same time, every team in the world that's ever played football at some level wants to do those things. So how do you do those things is, hey, let's stop the run. Okay, cool. What does that mean? Well, it means you got to play well on the defensive line. It means you got to flow to the football at linebacker. It means you've got to be aggressive but not get out of your run fits. It means everybody else has to come in and rally to the football and clean things up. So, I think those are good markers. Those are good things to kind of those are good just kind of measurements to tell you, am I doing all these other things correctly? The other side, to run the football, you have to have, for one, the right play call on. 2, you've got to have some type of push up front or at least enough of a stalemate to give your running back room. Then it's like, all right, does the running back get what it's blocked for, or does he break a couple of tackles and turn it into something else? And so you can go back and scream, hey, run the ball better, all you want, but ultimately it comes down to those fundamentals. Why do they have the penalties they've had? We've talked about that too. And so I look at those things more being measurements, but they are measurements of, did you execute all these other very specific things that add up over time into the categories that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's hard to believe in some ways, guys, that South Carolina has been, not that it's been perfect, but, there have been seasons where you've looked back and said, offense is turning the football over way too much. Last year, even in the beginning, that was a problem, right? The fumbles, some picks. Now, was South Carolina very fortunate to not turn the ball over against Missouri? Yeah, I mean, one of them that was, you had one that was a potential that there was a defensive pass interference. You have one where Sellers was getting hit, threw the ball, didn't really, I don't think, saw the linebacker, Rodriguez, underneath. Guy drops the football. That would have absolutely been an interception. So they've had some fortune along the way, but they've been actually pretty good. They've played winning football in the category of turnovers so far. But to Beamer's point about, hey, if you've got 5, 6, 7 things that you want to do in order to win a game and you're playing to win, you don't necessarily have to get all of those things accomplished, especially when you're playing against the competition South Carolina plays against, but you have to do some of them. You can't go in a game, leave a game and say, hey, we did literally one of our keys to the game, one of our goals in our plan to win, and then go win the game. There have been, and again, that's why we can't boil down the offensive issues to one thing. It's a lot of them that they have to, continue improving on. You can't all of a sudden get the run game going a little bit and then start turning the football over. That is, that would be a significant issue. So if you're looking at some things to build on, you're not turning the ball over at a super high clip. You're doing some things in the passing game. I think that's continued actually to get better from game 1 to game 4. But the other things in there, the run game, the penalties, the mistakes, those haven't gotten better. Against Missouri, heck, those things got worse, and that's the challenge that lies ahead.
Well, and that's what I think when you kind of look at where improvements can be made, nobody's expecting it to be a night and day difference where all of a sudden you go out there and run for 300 yards this weekend, don't commit any penalties, especially pre-snap penalties whatsoever. There's going to be some existence of struggle with that probably for a while, but as long as you're making improvements and making strides in the right direction, then you can see the optimism of, okay, they're getting better at that, and by X point in the season, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. It shouldn't be as much of an issue. Unfortunately, we just had such a mixed bag of these things through the first couple of games. You don't really kind of know where you're at in terms of making progress on a lot of those things.
Yeah, and I think herein lies where the frustration is. It's just if it's not one thing, it's something else. And that's typically, when you're not playing well, that's kind of how things go. You can point to a lot of different things, and I think they will continue to try to tweak. I know some people want to think, hey, they haven't done anything differently. Well, they've tried to tweak things. They changed some things on the offensive line. There's been different rotations at wide receiver. We saw Matt Fuller get into the game a little bit more in non-garbage time on Saturday. I know it was just a handful of plays, but I think there was, 11 carries from running backs anyway. So it was kind of one of those things where it was pretty clear early on. Some games you go into and you go, hey, we're not running the ball, but we're just gonna have to keep trying. Other games you look at it and say, we just got to abandon this thing. And I think that's kind of where they were to an extent on Saturday with the lack of overall plays, and then you were getting such big plays otherwise. It just took away your opportunities to even try to establish the run from there. So you got to keep tweaking. I think everything is on the table at this point in terms of things you could change moving forward. And you just kind of have to keep doing that until you possibly find some increased level of success.
Can you run the football not just out of principle, right? Like, I think that's what you saw in the Missouri game, especially late. And, I not that I've seen this after the Missouri game, guys, but you couldn't look at that game and say, they just ran the ball up the middle every time. If you go back and study it, first of all, there weren't a lot of carries. Carolina had 55 offensive plays. It was boom or bust. Your inability to run is hampering the amount of plays, which is a problem in and of itself. They ran pin and pull. They ran inside zone. They ran, we saw an end around. Just nothing really worked. If it wasn't in the box blocking, it was perimeter blocking. That was they had a design run for Sellers, didn't block the corner or the safety. Even Lenore Sellers is going to have trouble in that situation. So I felt like when they run it's kind of like, let's run to keep the defense honest and see if we can spring something. Can you go beyond that and have your run game be more productive to where you're cutting out the negative and you're getting something in the run game other than looking back and your running backs having 11 carries for 19 yards? You got to do better than that.
Well, when a team is struggling like Carolina is, you got to have some hard conversations with your team and with your coaches underneath you. What did Beamer have to say about that yesterday? We'll dive into that next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game.
Our friends over at Game Day Men's Health can help you as a man reclaim your vitality by optimizing hormone levels. They specialize in TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy, which will help boost your energy and strength. And they're a lot different than other clinics that do similar things. They have in-house labs that can deliver your results in just 15 minutes. They're conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and Two Notch Road. Comfortable man cave style clinics with TVs and refreshments while you wait. Also great, they don't use any long-term contracts. Flexible plans tailored to your needs. TRT tests available to check your levels with absolutely no obligation, and then ongoing monitoring committed to your success with expert guidance. You can get started by going to GameDayMen'sHealth.com/North-Columbia. Again, located just off I-77, or give them a call, 803-265-3161.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris, along with you here on your Wednesday on the game, going back over what Beamer had to say yesterday at his Wednesday press conference. And the question he was posed had to do with, the hard conversations you have to have not only your team, but your coaching staff and assistants and all those other things as well when things are not going well during a season that's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start like South Carolina's has had. And here's what Coach Beamer had to say about that yesterday.
You ultimately have a responsibility to this program and the players, the coaches, the university, my bosses, the community, the people that follow Gamecock football to get this thing right. And we all know what we signed up for as coaches and players. You want to be somewhere where there's high expectations, and and you have great relationships. Like, I love and care about every single person in this building on a personal level, and want to see everyone be successful. But there's also a responsibility when things aren't getting done, and when something's not good enough, you have those conversations. But everybody gets that. We know what we signed up for, but also understanding that, conveying to our people, that our staff, players, like, we got what we need. We're just not doing it. We're not doing it well enough right now as a whole. We haven't gotten the best out of this team. We're continuing to get better. We're still a work in progress, but in my opinion, we haven't gotten the best out of this team in the first 4 games, and that's really disappointing. And ultimately, my responsibility. So you got to do whatever it takes to get that right and not have that feeling.
And I think we have to remember, as fans and media members, we only see a small fraction of the operations of this team. We see 3.5 hours of it on Saturday. We get Beamer for 30 minutes on Tuesday, his assistants for a couple minutes on Wednesdays, and various players that talk throughout the week. But that's only a small part of the 20 hours that they all have together, not to mention the countless hours of meetings and stuff between the coaching staff, where there are a lot of these hard conversations. There are a lot of these heart-to-hearts, come-to-Jesus meetings, whatever you want to call it, behind closed doors that I'm sure are already happening because the season's not gotten off to the way that you wanted it to. And I know a lot of people would like to physically see Beamer losing his mind against Shula on the sidelines when the offense has knew what it needs to do, but that doesn't mean there isn't accountability happening behind the walls that we're just not able to see.
Well, and Beamer talked about this a little bit on his teleconference on Sunday. Probably was like as forthright and open about this part of the conversation as we've heard him be since he arrived in Columbia. And that was just the idea of, hey, what I say in a press conference is not going to be the full picture of what is going on behind closed doors. And he sees it as part of his job as the leader of this program to stand up there and take it to an extent. I mean, I do think, and I got some pushback. Some people, when I posted this on our forum, some people said, well, I don't want to see him throw people under the bus. I just want to see South Carolina play better. And I said, well, that may be you, but there are certainly people who get very frustrated at the press conferences. They get very frustrated at Beamer saying some of the same things over and over, which actually most coaches say a lot of the same things over and over, to be honest with you. And, you see people in the comments on YouTube basically trying to quote what Beamer's going to say before he says it. And, Beamer did acknowledge, like, hey, I'm going to have conversations behind closed doors. That doesn't mean I'm going to throw my guys under the bus to the public. That's just not the way he operates. And let's be honest, too. If he went up there and threw everybody else under the bus, people would be saying, well, you're passing off blame. You know what I'm saying? So we do love, we want a coach to say more. We want a coach to be honest about his feelings. And then when he goes up there and rants like Dabo, we crush him for that as well. So ultimately, my thought on press conferences has always been, it really doesn't matter what you say. People are going to be mad if you're losing, and they're going to be completely fine if you're winning.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, one of the things that I thought was interesting that Beamer said yesterday that was, again, in the context of a press conference and what you're saying publicly, he used the phrase confront and demand, and that immediately got my attention, right? And I was like, man, I feel like I've heard that before. And I went back and looked. There was an interview that Tom Izzo, former or the Michigan State, basketball coach, did with somebody, I think Graham Bessinger, and he was being asked about accountability and Tom Izzo, tougher guy to play for, more old school, all that stuff. And he used that phrase, and he said, I stole that from Nick Saban. He said, I went and visited Nick Saban at one point, and there was a sign in their building that said confront and demand. And so I'm not saying that's where Beamer might have read a book. Maybe he came up with it on his own. I have no idea. But I think it just illustrates that there's those conversations that are happening. And when you're 2-2, I think those conversations have to intensify. And what I'm curious about this weekend, guys, is what changes, and not just schematically. Yes, there's a segment of the fan base, maybe a pretty large one, maybe not just a minority, that's sitting around going, we need to really shake things up. Well, going into this game, it doesn't appear that it's not going to happen sitting here on a Wednesday of game week. Will it happen in the future? I don't know. But how do you get better? And one of the areas that Shane Beamer has pointed to multiple times, he said it the other night, we're looking at everything. And he mentioned personnel, and he went into more detail on that yesterday and said, hey, I have told our staff I don't want to have guys out there who aren't performing and continue watching those guys go out there and not perform. So, Wes, you mentioned earlier, there was a tweak on the offensive line going into a couple tweaks going into the Missouri game. Carolina ended up playing 3 different combinations up there. A couple of those were due to injuries. Cason Henry had to leave the game after a play. Nolan Hay goes down. But do we see some tweaks in terms of personnel, whether that's offense, defense, special teams, all 3 phases? Do we see some guys out there that maybe we haven't seen as much because the staff is taking an even deeper look at that? Maybe, right? We might dive in and say Carolina changed some things in the run scheme, and we can analyze the results of that. But I'm very curious to see that. Do we see any personnel tweaks, whether it's along the offensive line or frankly anywhere on this team?
Well, and Beamer made it a point yesterday to also point out that, hey, there's not any position right now that's not up for grabs. Everything's on the table in terms of changes that can be made and who can go out there. And, I know we talk about running backs from the standpoint of obviously what they're doing carrying the ball or lack thereof as of right now, but Faison blowing a very important block down there on the goal line on the 1st and 2. Like, is that something that potentially prevents him from playing as many snaps this upcoming weekend? Very possible. If they think that Isaiah Augusta or Oscar Attaway is a better run blocker, well, guess what? They might be on the field more. And again, it's all those kind of things that come together in combination to try and make a difference. Because again, like I said, you can't just suddenly change your entire scheme overnight. They're not going to go out there and start running the air raid offense this upcoming weekend. It doesn't work like that. You have a box you still have to work within, but you can change the pieces within there to hopefully make you more successful.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, Tyler. And you have your greater playbook, and you can say, hey, we're gonna run more in general. We're running more passes, or hey, we're gonna take these plays that have just not worked, and we're going to throw them in a blender, and we're gonna focus on these other things that have worked, and then maybe we work in this little bubble of plays that are similar, and then we put in some stuff that complement those things. South Carolina very quietly made a change at linebacker. Justin Okoronkwo was not the starter through the first 3 games. He was the starter on Saturday and actually played the most snaps of anybody in that linebacker room, which was a shift. That's a guy who to me has played pretty well this season, and I think was probably being rewarded for that play. Like, hey, let's get this guy on the field more. So I do think you will continue to see those changes. Does Matt Fuller continue to get maybe a few more opportunities as someone who, go back to after the spring game. Beamer made a comment, hey, I like watching this guy move the pile with his strength. That's something the run game could use right now. So I think all sort of preseason favorites in terms of, hey, this guy's the favorite to win this job, that job, this is the role we see for them. Those things remain when you're winning. When you're losing, all that, I think, goes out the window. So I do think they'll have to continue to tweak these rotations. And, guys, to be honest, I would like to see a few more guys step up on this defense and prove that they can play up to a level compared to the guys in front of them, because I do think as the season has gone on, those rotations have had to shrink just a little bit. And then I think against an opponent like Missouri, who was able to stay on the field against you, is running the ball over and over and over again, it felt to me like it got worn down just a little bit on that side of the ball. How can you correct that? Well, a lot of it is, do you have enough guys that you are comfortable with, that you trust to rotate in there at the various positions along your defense?
We'll come back, wrap up the hour. We've learned the permanent opponents and what the schedule for the next 4 years looks like. With that coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on The Game. And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Wilson, Chris, wrapping up the show here on your Wednesday. Again, tomorrow we're going to be out at Firehouse Subs on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia, right across from Lexington Medical Center. Come by and see us. Be out there from 9 until noon. So Chris Lowe of On3 did spoil the permanent opponents announcement last night on ESPN. As we know, Carolina is going to be playing Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida at least for the next 4 years on an annual basis. But last night we also got the reveal of all opponents, home and away, through 26, 27, 28, and 29. So no more mysteries of having to wait year to year. We know exactly who Carolina is going to be playing every year for the next 4 seasons.
Yeah, and I do think the whole permanent opponent thing, and I guess they're not even technically calling them permanent opponents anymore, this is a little bit of made-for-TV over reaction because they're going to shift it and relook at it in 4 years anyway.
Yes.
So if you have this many teams involved in something, it's probably not that different than if you just rotated it around because it's gonna change again very, very soon. But for South Carolina, I think this is not the best, not the worst, probably somewhere in the middle. Now you just all but guarantee that based on what I've seen from South Carolina scheduling over my entire lifetime, most of these teams are going to be on the up. Now that they're on South Carolina's schedule, that was like always the case. Like if a team got made a permanent for South Carolina, you might as well go ahead and go to Vegas and put some money on the overs for them because they were just naturally going to be better when they were on the schedule.
Yeah, Nick Saban's going to unretire and go coach Florida now, and they're going to turn into a powerhouse again.
You stole my joke, Tyler. I was going to say, not Saban, but you're looking at it going, all right, got to go to Ole Miss, play Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss on the road this year. Well, next year, Florida head coach Lane Kiffin on the road in Gainesville, right? I mean, but some fun trips coming up. I mean, y'all, Arkansas for me, super underrated SEC trip. I think every Gamecock fan should go. You've got that chance next year to go there. Go check it out. Texas, I think that's one that I think a lot of Gamecock fans have circled because Austin's a pretty, in my opinion, pretty fun place to go. That's a stadium that most Gamecock fans, if not the vast, vast majority, have never been to unless you just happen to catch a Texas game at some point back in the day or sometime recently. You play them away in 2029, so you will have to wait a while.
That was annoying to me, Chris. I've been wanting to take that trip.
Super annoying. I might put that thing sooner, but 2029.
Yeah, don't love that part.
They are coming here that next year, though, so you do get the Longhorns coming into Willie B. in
2027.
Or, excuse me, 2027, sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, that's a cool matchup. Texas is coming to your place. That's just not something, I mean, for all the negatives of having, expansion to the conference, it's cool to see the team you follow or cover play against some opponents you just haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, hey, Texas coming to Willie B. How cool is that? Oh, wait, I'm going to be in a wheelchair by the time it actually happens because I'm going to be so old that I'm going to be, I'm not going to be here anymore. So, I think when you look at the opportunity there to play some of these great opponents, it's not as fun when you have to wait so long. But hey, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, you'll get your fill of Oklahoma though by then because you'll have 3 years and 2 road trips to Norman by the time Texas comes in here in 2027. You'll have another home game against Oklahoma before you go to Texas in 2029.
Yeah.
Which of these SEC teams will Mike Gundy be coaching?
Ooh.
By the time.
Good question.
He says he wants to stay in.
I hope he does. I need him around college football.
We need
He's too valuable.
What would be, I was thinking about this, about the Lane Kiffin thing. What would be worse, Kiffin to Florida or Eli Drinkowitz just follows you and goes to Gainesville and now you're facing the outside zone.
It'll be one of those.
In Gainesville.
I could see Gundy going to a place like Arkansas. I think that could fit him.
Pretty good fit.
Yeah.
Or does he just go call plays somewhere?
He might, because he doesn't like to do the NIL stuff, and much like Gus Malzahn, he'd be like, hey, I just want to coach ball. I'm going to go somewhere where I can just call some plays. That could happen too.
Yeah, I mean, the whole NIL thing, it feels like his fall off kind of tracked with the portal and NIL. So does he want to go somewhere where he doesn't have to deal with that? Maybe. You know, I mean, the guy obviously knows offense, so who knows?
Calling it right now. Bobby Petrino, head coach of Arkansas, Mike Gundy calling plays next year.
Oh, that'd be fascinating. That would be entertaining.
I will tune into all of those press conferences if that's the case.
Y'all think Petrino is angling?
Apparently,
behind the scenes.
From what the reports that I'm reading, apparently he is, which is the most on-brand thing I've ever read.
Yeah, it's funny how much that stuff happens behind the scenes, though. When coaches kind of smell blood in the water.
Well, you know, when you hire a snake, expect him to act like a snake, and it's what Bobby Petrino is at the end of the day.
On brand.
On brand, very on brand. A third Bobby Petrino tenure at Arkansas could be on the horizon, especially if they keep fumbling away games at the very end. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Again, tomorrow we're going to be live out at Firehouse Subs in West Columbia across from Lexington Medical Center. Come by and hang out with us. Halftime show up next here on the game.
All right, guys, before I get out of here, let me tell you about our friends at Krantz Cooling. That's KrantzCooling.com. Krantz with a K, coolingwithak.com. Like I told y'all last week, I experienced the need for Krantz. Nobody likes to have to make that phone call when you look up and you see, hey, my thermostat says it's